Hello, everyone. Welcome to the You Don't Look Like an Engineer podcast. Today we have an incredible guest.
I met Teeshal not long ago, 3 weeks ago probably, because she was very passionate about connecting with different people from different industries. So she reached out to me through LinkedIn and we caught up for a conversation and I was just amazed by her story and her journey. Because as we all know, we think that a professional journey has to be linear and in reality it isn't. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you, Tishal. And yeah, if you just wanted to introduce yourself and let us know what makes you, I guess, what a little introduction about yourself and yeah, describe what you like doing.
Thank you, Laura Sohan. Love the opportunity. Very grateful for the opportunity to be on the podcast today. So, name's Teeshal from Malaysia. Non-linear career pathway because started off as a civil engineer, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm a not-for-profit founder, and I still perform a role as a program manager within the rail industry. So I do wear a few different hats, and probably most proud of the fact that I actually have two little girls as well, 9 and 12. And yes, it's been an interesting ride so far.
That is a lot of hats to be wearing. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I suppose just because the name is You Don't Look Like an Engineer. What drew you towards the civil engineering side of industry? Yeah.
I think that's a question for my mom and dad. I think being born in a Southeast Asian sort of home, I had three options: engineering, doctor, or a lawyer. So I didn't really have much of a choice in terms of picking my career. You shouldn't be
Yeah, right.
surprised, right?
That sounds very familiar. Yeah, not at all. I'd say the push wasn't there on my end, but given the subjects I was taking, they were like, just think about engineering. Like, why not? So it sounds very familiar.
Yeah, so I think that was literally the start of it. And I think when I got into it, I just realized that I don't know if I can actually do what other engineers do. I almost feel that there's a stereotype that's attached to the word engineer, someone that's probably good at maths, technically inclined, loves building and constructing, and that was the little realm of knowledge that I actually had around engineering. But it's so much more than that. And I think that's the bit that probably drove me towards the podcast when I actually said, "You don't look like an engineer." And I guess the first question that popped into my head was, "So what does an engineer look like?"
Can you elaborate a bit on what you meant by when you got in, you didn't think you could do what a normal engineer does?
Oh no, I think it's more around. I had an illusion in my mind of what an engineering role or a title would actually mean, and I think my limited knowledge at the time is knowing that it's design, it's construction, it's building, and
So
that was all
basically,
that I actually
entering
knew.
the industry changed your whole perspective.
Oh, 100%, right? I think you only know what you know until you get actually exposed to either people
Yeah.
in the industry or being immersed in the experience itself that opens up your mind to what is possible.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. So, we've heard how you got into the industry a little bit. And now, how would you describe what you do to a 5-year-old?
It's really funny you actually say that because my daughter said to me, because she knows my title is got the word manager behind, and she said, "So, Mama, do you just go to work and just tell people what to do all day? Because I want to do that." And I said, and that opened up a whole discussion around what a manager is, and what a leader is. Imagine having a conversation with an 8-year old just about that. I think to answer your question very simplistically, I view my role as a collaboration role. My role today is all about empowering, coaching, and mentoring teams to actually be high performing so that we can successfully deliver our project, um, appeasing all parties.
Mm, mm, okay. And when you started the engineering industry, did you think that your role was gonna be this? Or as you were saying, like I think we sold a like a person. It's like, okay, engineers do this. They only focus on construction and like technical stuff. But in reality, there's so many, as you said earlier, hats that way you get to wear. So how did you think your career was gonna look like back when you started?
I think that was actually quite short-lived. When I got my first role, it was as a graduate in the railway industry. That's how I started off. And coming into the industry, forget the fact that there weren't any women. There wasn't anyone that was young. Most people around me were in their 50s, male and white. So I think that I didn't quite picture that when I actually went into the rail industry, but when I used to have excited coming into first job as a career sort of professional, excited to sort of take on the world and see what it brings. But my expectations were short lived because the people that I was associating with were very busy talking about retirement. Because majority of them were in their 50s, talking about they've only got a few more years to go they'll retire. So I think it gave me a very and that's why I say non-traditional, because of the exposure I had in the rail industry at that time. Despite the fact that I actually had all this ambition and hunger to learn, I was actually really grateful for some of the conversations that made me think, hang on a minute, am I going to be trading 40, 45 hours week in, week out for the next 40 years of my life as an engineer? So I think when I started off my career in that space, then I actually quickly decided that I don't want to do that. And although I was in the rail industry and was involved in a lot of different projects, I thought I wanted to have a whole lot of different experiences, because the people that I was exposed to had been in the rail industry for 40 years, 30 years, and I thought, oh my God, does that mean if you get in, you never get out, and this is all you do? And that scared me, quite frankly.
Of course, it sounds daunting. Like it's everything I'm gonna do, just this. Or is this what my life is gonna look like in the future? Everything that I'm gonna be looking forward to is retirement. That sounds,
Sad.
there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, yes, sad.
Well, it was a bit. Well, it felt like a bit like an anticlimax, right? Like, because you're studying, you're doing
Yeah.
your thesis, you do all of these years of experience, you do your work experience. You're like, ta-da! This is like the corporate world. Now for you to actually be an engineer, and then when you hear those things, you're like, actually, is this the pathway that I'm actually going to go down?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So when you felt scared, sorry, Sohan, I know you were gonna ask something, but um, I just really have to address this. You said that you were scared and you felt like you didn't want to do that. So what made you push and keep working on it and get to where you are at the moment? Like, was there a specific situation or was there a specific person that sort of like told you, nah, this is not what it's like? Um, what made you change your mind?
I think I've done a full circle. I've done a full 360 circle. So although I started off in railway and in construction sort of projects, I I started to be part of different networking sort of groups from a young age, and in this specific engineer networking sort of group that I was part of, I was exposed to a lot of different entrepreneurs or people who wanted to be entrepreneurs, and opened my mind to probably what was possible. So when I went down that pathway, I started to collaborate with different people, and as a result of that, we started up a business. And we started up our first business, which was really purchasing a master license for Western Australia in the area of logistics, and we started to build a network of franchises. And then in the short sort of 3 years, we grew to 150 franchises in Western Australia. I was a young director at the time. I had zero knowledge in the area of business, but I definitely had people around me who were seasoned business people, if you like, to actually learn from. And that got me really excited because I could actually use my engineering. There's definitely a lot of skills being an engineer. The way we think is a bit different from other sort of professions. So the analytical, rational sort of thinking aspect, the logic, the organization aspect, definitely used a lot of those sort of skills in my role when I started up my business.
Okay. Wow. So I guess, okay, if you wanted to ask a question,
Yeah,
then you can
it is
please
sort
go
of
ahead.
tied in. I guess in terms of, because like if you look at engineering, yeah, people and you do speak to like older engineers because it's something like we question as well in terms of like value adding or fulfillment, I guess. What you're looking at in this career that gives you a sense of like I'm contributing something. So what I guess was lacking in that sense for you, and what did fulfillment look like for you that you were able to take that leap and say, look, this is not what I want to do. My ideal life looks like X. What is
Mm.
X? Yeah.
Excellent question.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal question. I think it's I had this growing up. I think everyone's got different perspective as to what they're expecting life to actually be, and I think growing up in the environment I was, it was study really hard, work really hard, keep climbing the corporate ladder, make money, have kids, get married, have kids, repeat. Like you continue that sort of cycle. And I think when I went into the industry and looked around me, yes, it was great to actually be part of a construction project. Please don't get me wrong. I actually loved that aspect of it. But I think the back of my mind was like, is this it? Like, am I going to keep working on construction projects? Am I ever going to build something of my own? What is my capability? What is my capacity to actually grow and build something on my own? And I think I was so curious about what the limits were that I wanted to actually venture out and experiment.
So was it more of not being able to unlock your untapped potential? Or was it like you wanted freedom to be able to go wherever you wanted to travel, or like more like,
Yeah, I think
I don't know,
100%.
like in a material sense?
Being a migrant coming into Australia, it wasn't to have an average lifestyle. It wasn't to actually be mediocre. And I was listening to something recently and made me laugh. He said, life is like almost like you see what the masses are doing, and then you stop, you do the hokey pokey, you turn around, and you do something else. It's
I love that. That is gonna be my new mantra.
so it's literally trying to fight against the grain of what everybody else was doing. And I was very much into personal development and growth from a young age. I was very curious about human behavior and curious about what made people do what they did, and looking at the results that they actually had at the end of that. And around me, when I looked at people and when I looked at the kind of life that they actually had, I went, there must be more. There must be more. And I didn't know what the answers were.
But very curious that as a, yeah, as a young person to be thinking of those things, where do you think that interest sparked from? As a, to look at human behavior, look at life, and want to be a rebel.
Yeah, rebel. That's quite funny. I think it's again it's lived experience. When we moved here from Malaysia, my parents had it really tough. They came here, sold everything that they actually had. We moved here as a family. My parents, when they came here, they were in their 50s and they started life from scratch. Had to build new
Wow.
networks again, had to start jobs from scratch, and they couldn't actually get work in the fields that they had worked in for 30 years. Everything that they knew had to be unlearned. And when I saw them struggle, I kind of, and I think things happen in your life and you start to actually have these defining moments. And I actually had one of those defining moments seeing my parents struggle, that I was like, I was never ever going to be, I didn't ever want to be in the position that they were in. And I think that's kind of what went through my head, because we had a lot of, probably not long enough to cover in this podcast, but I've actually experienced my dad being taken to court by his own brother and being made a bankrupt. Whole family went through the whole court system. My parents lost everything that they actually had. My mom was managing our household from credit card to credit card. So it was really challenging, and they were paying international fees for me and my sisters. So when I saw what everybody else was doing, I just went, I don't know if this pathway is actually going to guarantee me a much better life. And I think in the back of my mind, I just knew that I wanted to do something different, and I just didn't ever want to be in the same boat that they were in.
Yeah. So when you realized that the masses were doing the similar thing and they were probably not getting the result that you were wanting or that was ideal for you. Okay, good. I think there was like a little yeah, I
Remnants
think there was
something.
like a little thing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see your screen, like it was just frozen. So I was like, are they able to hear me? I'm sorry about that. But what I was saying is like I guess when you realized that what they were doing wasn't actually gonna get you where you wanted to be, um, what did you implement into your life? Like what habits did you implement to get to the ideal life that you wanted, or who was living the life that you wanted to live? that sort of like you could copy the habits from or have them as an inspiration?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. See, that's the thing, right? Like in my circle of influence at the time, I didn't know any better. Everyone around me was doing exactly that. Study hard, get a good job, keep climbing the corporate ladder. I didn't know any different. I didn't know people who were in business. When I got into business, my mom was like putting her two hands together and said, "Please, just don't do this. Just have a job. Just have a job. It's just a safe thing
Yeah,
to do.
security,
Why
right?
would you do
Yeah.
this?" So I didn't actually really have the support of family when I got into business, and although we were really successful to start with, it didn't actually have a happy ending. Our trust
Mm.
fund was mismanaged, and overnight there wasn't any money in the bank account. And as a young director at the time, I would be seen trading insolvent if we kept operating. So I had to close the doors. I had to let people in the office go. It was game over. And as a 28-year-old dealing with that at the time, it was really really tough. And I didn't have the mental capacity to actually deal with the situation. I just didn't. And when you have people around you who look at you sort of not being successful, whatever that might mean in their mind, they said, "I told you so. I told you that was going to work. I told you
Mm.
just have a job."
Mm.
And I think there's enough people sort
Yeah,
of around.
so disempowering.
100%, right? But people are trying to keep you safe. They're doing it, and it took me a while to understand that as well. It was coming from a space where they just wanted you to be safe. Um,
Mm.
and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And so
Expecting different results. Yeah.
yeah, so I knew I had to do something different, but it's okay. Like I soldiered on. There was a lot of tears, definitely there, but I kind of licked my wounds and went back into engineering, and engineering was my saving grace. And I'm very, very grateful for that. I was in mining at the time, and we were building heavy haul rails from port to mine in Western Australia. Used to do not active flying fire, like used to be kind of once a month, and I was exposed to all of that again. So it was, but I think what was really lacking for me was role models. What was really lacking is seeing people who probably look like
Mm.
me, and have gone through a very similar sort of pathway and got to a happy ending, or living the life in terms of what I see success is, and it was a struggle. So I guess it was continually trial and error. It was continuing trying different things and learning from people. So I just read a whole lot of books, and I tried to network and just connect with different people from a pretty young age, just to learn people's sort of stories and just understand like how did they what they did.
I guess how did you after seeing setback and setback and having to come back to engineering, how do you maintain how did you and how would you recommend people to maintain like a positive outlook on what they want out of life and to keep at it, if that makes a positive mindset in that sense?
Yeah, I think it came to how I viewed failure. I think some people, when they've experienced setbacks, they go, "Oh my God, that happened! Like never ever again am I going to do anything like this," and then they go completely the opposite direction. I think for me it was okay. That didn't work. It didn't go as well as planned. What can I learn from this? And I had a few sort of non-negotiables in my mind as well, as to if I got into business the next time, it needed to tick a few different boxes. Like I learned from it. So I think it was all about failing forward, learning forward, learning from the experiences, as opposed to it being a setback that I would never ever sort of explore again. I think that was one aspect, just like how I viewed the setbacks. But the other aspect of it was the hunger. um, I was hungry. I was hungry to do a lot more. And I know from a really young age, I kept thinking in my mind like I have one life, and I just want to live a life to the fullest. And I kept thinking, and this was like pretty early on as well, before I even had kids. I was thinking to myself, what stories am I going to share with them? What life experiences am I going to be able to share with them? I just didn't want to be the kind of person who did the same thing for 40 years, and I just didn't know what else to share with my kids. So I think every step of the way, I kept thinking about it as I was collecting more experiences, more life experiences that I would be able to share with others.
Well, it's amazing that you had that way of looking the at things from like such a young age. And I think what I can see is that you have always been the main character of your life. Like powerful to make change. And you know, because like other people live the life that other people want them to live, instead of just taking control over the opportunities and the possibilities. So it sounds like you were very accountable of your own journey, which is really amazing.
And very clear,
um
in what you want. That clarity
yeah.
is hard to come by, especially when things go wrong. I've seen, and likewise, like, I had immigrant parents. They were in their 40s, yeah, and they still to this day have not experienced, a good life in terms of what they wanted as an outcome in Australia. And it's easy to get disheartened and, lose sight of what you wanted, and just, then just be like, maybe I do need the security of a job. So, do you think you had like um a good network at all to back you, whether it's in a social circle or, like you said, family was not a support,
I mean, they
but
came around eventually. They came around eventually, and they did support.
yeah,
But they weren't really people that I could learn from in the area of business and finance.
I was gonna say, 'cause, yeah, you were saying like there weren't people that looked like you, there weren't people who achieved what you wanted to that were like you. So, do you find like that in and of itself, yeah, it made it harder for you, but also did it make it hard for people to take you seriously? In terms of your ambition and your competency, do you feel like that came in the way at all?
I think ignorance is bliss sometimes. I think not really knowing how you're being perceived was actually a positive thing, and I wasn't thinking too much about that. I think in my mind I felt that I was really sincere in my intentions when I was with people and the work that I did. I always thought in the back of my mind that I was going to give it 110%. So it hasn't really stopped me from speaking up or putting my hand up to just do things that were challenging or just ask the dumb question, because I just felt like I was just really hungry for knowledge. I was just really hungry to want to do more and just have a lot more experiences. So I don't think that really hindered me. I don't know how other people sort of perceived it, but I felt like I was like kind of swimming in my own lane, if that makes sense.
That's almost a common theme. I think whenever you hear about any entrepreneurs or people like following their dreams, that's pretty much sounds like the way to go about it. But in terms of like, I guess, how to what you like, you've started a not for profit or as well, and as your business, is that an avenue you sort of always thought you wanted to get down, philanthropy and that sort of thing?
Um, I feel after moving to Australia, and we've been here for 20 plus years right now, I feel like our existence in this country, and I know this might sound a little bit deep, I almost feel like it's an obligation to do more. Like it's been a real. There's a lot of people who don't actually have the kind of opportunities that we actually have here. And I think once I was given so many different opportunities, and I obviously doors got opened and I walked through them as well, so I know I had a role to play in that. But I think got to a point where I felt like I have to give back. It wasn't like, oh, that'll be a really nice thing to do to give back. I'm like, no, I have to do this because I'm obligated to do it right now. I think that was kind of what was running through the back of my mind. So Rav, my husband and I think when, I think since we were about 26, 27, every time there were good things that actually happened to us, we just kept collecting charities. And I think it got to a point where we were supporting probably about 16 different charities. And then we were like, what are we doing? Like, we're just putting $50 here, $20 here, Oxfam, World Vision, Medicine Sans Frontier. Like, we were supporting all these different charities. And I think in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about legacy and impact. Like, how was I going to make the world a better place? Like, what was my contribution?
So can you tell us a little bit about your not-for-profit and what it is that you do?
Yeah, no, thank
Yes.
you, Sohan. So, Grit Leadership is a certified social enterprise where we're tackling gender equity and inclusion within workplaces. And it's also to actually help with getting more women into senior leadership roles. So, how we actually do that is we run two signature programs. One, we run a program specifically for women. It's called Women Be Seen and Heard, whereby we run a training program that goes over 8 weeks to teach them the art of storytelling and communication, but then giving them the confidence to share their voice on a platform, effectively like a TED Talk style presentation without any notes or presentation. And by creating that platform, we now create that visibility for these women after the training program, to introduce them to all the other senior leaders within an organization. So if an opportunity does come up, people go, what about this person here? I actually heard their story, and they just creating that visibility for them, because a lot of women don't want to put their name, themselves out there because they're afraid that you know, they don't want to brag, but this is giving them an opportunity to just sort of showcase who they are. And the other program that we actually run is very focused on unconscious bias training, but using VR and gamification. So our leaders literally put headsets on, and they have an immersive experience, experiencing discrimination, could be age, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. And they walk a mile in someone else's shoe. By actually having that sort of experience, it becomes a topic of conversation that we can delve a lot deeper. No one wants to attend training programs where they're being taught to. We want to be able to actually challenge people so that it goes from head to heart. And we believe that when it goes from head to heart, people will start to act differently. And when they act differently, then we start to see change within an organization. So this is what our training programs aim to do. And all of our surplus funds go towards building programs for young girls in schools. So we've partnered with a charity called Flourish Girl, and they do exactly that. They empower teenage girls to become unstoppable women. And Flourish Girl operate in 65 schools in Victoria alone. One of the challenges that I actually face is having continuity of funding for these schools to actually run programs for girls between year 8 to year 12. So yeah, but that's a little bit in terms of a nutshell of the programs that we run for Grit.
We'll leave them a link on project on sorry, we'll leave a link on the episode description so people can come and support you and sort of like get to know you and get involved. Because can anyone get involved, or how does it work?
Um, our focus is really with corporates. So it's really helping move the dial. Currently, a lot of organizations actually spend or invest money in professional development and developing leaders within the organization. So by partnering with Grid Leadership, you're almost ticking two boxes. Yes, you're investing into a leadership program that's very innovative and very current and very impactful, but more so, our funds actually go towards supporting girls to come into our workplace. So, but
How
yeah,
did
the focus is definitely more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did you come up with the idea of something like this?
Well, this is actually back to having those conversations with those 250 strangers on LinkedIn. So it was not my idea, and I'm not going to claim to actually have come up with that. So again, power of connection and connecting with people who are SMEs in their areas, in their specific areas, and all we've done is just our values aligned. We've collaborated, and we found a platform to actually bring it to life.
Wow,
Holy
that's amazing.
just shows what minds put together can actually come up with. Because honestly, like the immersive thing for getting discrimination coming across to people, because I feel like unfortunately as people we only really resonate with something we've
Yes.
been through. Like we can really feel for it and then empathize. Sympathy only gets you such a long way. And to be able to put them in those shoes without actually like physically hurting anyone, and you know
Empathy,
this,
take it
the
to
the
the next
implications
level.
of what you can unlock in people, that's huge.
Mm.
That's so
Yeah.
huge.
It is, and it is a very impactful sort of program that we actually run. But I think one of the challenges I face being a not for profit is that we don't actually have funds for marketing and business development. The way we actually promote our not for profit is through conversation and trying to actually value add to organizations that are actually facing challenges.
Mm. Okay. I have so many
Just
questions
thinking
about
like,
that.
yeah, engineering
Yeah,
companies could benefit so much from this. Just trying to think how we
yeah,
could like
connect
have
you with
get this
someone.
word
Yeah,
spread out.
spread it out. I
Yeah.
think
And and
it
we've
would be
we've
very
done work for
valuable.
Arab, and that's the thing. That's the thing that's been really interesting. So for our pilot program, we actually did it with McConnell Dowell. So Arab, McConnell Dowell, and Metro Trains collaborated, and they run some of the level crossings here in Melbourne. And
Hmm.
that's how we actually started off. But So unfortunately, just conversations with organizations take a really, really long time. So when I dealt with Arab, they absolutely loved it. We did a demo. They loved it. They were like, "We need this." And then when it came to actually implementing the program, they were like, "I don't know how we're going to do this." I was like, "Serious?" So and this is not the first time. A lot of organizations that I speak to think it's an amazing idea, but then when it comes to implementation, there's always a bit of a challenge. So I might not be speaking to
When
the
you
right
say
person.
implementation, what do you mean? Like getting them to just
Commit, commit to actually giving it a go. Yeah.
They don't see the benefits of it, or what is it?
But the feedback I'm getting is that the benefits are definitely there, but it's actually finding the right opportunities to actually roll out the programs.
Yeah, okay. As a young professional or as a young person going through so much change and having an environment that thinks completely different to what you think, how do you self-promote and start to sort of like approach people if if you don't know anyone, how do you create those connections so you can achieve eventually what you want to, or start sort of like creating the life you want?
I think when we think about connecting with people, oftentimes people feel the need to connect with someone because there's something that they want to get from them. So I mean, how many times is it that sometimes you go into a networking event and someone just people just back in the day when there were business cards, people who just can't wait to give you their business card and tell you what is it that they do, right? Like so they got to like offload something off their chest, and I think networking, connecting with people have moved so far from where that notion of traditional networking. Um, I think today networking is all about connecting with people and getting to know who people are. Like it's all about being really curious and actually working out how is it that you can add value to other people as opposed to thinking how is it that they can do something for you.
Yeah, it's not a transaction. I think that's really important to
It,
mention. It's like we learn so much through connecting with one another. And like for example, this chat right now is allowing us to gain a little bit of, I guess, to get to see life through your lenses, and it's so valuable when we can gain perspective. But I feel like it's I feel like today, like networking, or not just today, but some people really approach it as a transaction. And what do you think the disadvantages of approaching networking like that are?
I mean, I see that on a day to day. I get that many requests from people on LinkedIn saying, "Hi, I'm actually looking for a job. Can you help me? Here's my resume." Like, who are you? Who are you? Right? So, and I think sometimes people have it in the back of their mind, thinking, if I just sort of put it out there and just say, "This is what I want. This is what I want," someone will actually help me. But it doesn't work like that because people don't like to be sold to. We live in a world where people want human connection. I think that's what's missing. So I think when you actually build a relationship with someone, you almost feel obligated to want to help that person if you like that person. Like you don't really need the person to sort of say, "Can you please help me?" You're like, "Oh my god, I really like this person. They look like they need some help. I'm going to go out of my way to give them a hand." Um, yeah, and I think with the people who do that, like with the intention of just wanting something out of other people, are doing themselves such a disadvantage because um, that minute of making an impression is already done. Like, what is it that they say? You've probably got about 3 to 7 seconds to actually make an impression on someone, and once that impression is actually made, like you actually have a whole period of time that you need to undo that. So how you carry yourself and the kind of the brand that you actually bring with who you are as a person is so important. Like you can't underestimate that.
as someone well versed in doing that, because you've done that, let's say even if you just look at the LinkedIn journey you've had for 250 odd people, in those 3 to 5 seconds, what would you recommend someone do to make a really good impression?
It starts with a smile. It really does. It starts with a smile. it's the small things. It's really the small things. It's how you come across physically. I think having a smile is really important. Making that eye contact and being honest. There are times where I actually connect with people and I kind of address the elephant in the room and I say, you might be wondering why we're connecting today. You might be wondering what's the agenda, right? And then you end up going into a bit of a laughter, going, yeah, exactly. You address the elephant in the room kind of straight away to actually say, this is weird. I know this is weird. This might sound really weird, but can I just share with you why I'm actually doing this? I think that's been really helpful. And then towards the end of most conversations, people go, "Oh wow, that was a really nice chat. Like, thank you for sharing. It was really nice connecting with you. You're no longer just a name on a LinkedIn profile. Stay connected." And and that was amazing. And the thing is, I think of the number of times I've been able to connect different people in my network because now I know who they are. I know what they value from the LinkedIn platform. What is it that they're looking for? And I think when people sort of share, like, this is my interest, this is what's important to me, then you kind of go, okay, I think I know some other people who might really value connecting with you. And then, the whole process of connecting kind of keeps going.
Mm, absolutely. So I really like what you said about human interaction because it is true. It's like it's all about like listening to one another and being seen is good.
But when you're building a business, I suppose, and you have the experience in that space, a lot of the times you are looking for connections that can provide you with X, or whether it's, sales or knowledge or whatever. How do you keep it authentic then?
I think you do need to share your intention, but just before that, I was just thinking of something what Laura was actually saying about the human connection. I came across this really cool quote, and it said that we are not we're not thinking machines, we are feeling machines that think.
Mm-hmm.
Because
100%.
ultimately, you know, we're still human beings, right? That actually have feelings, but we always think
Yeah.
sometimes we need to be so robotic in our approach because we have an agenda. I
Yes.
mean, we've got this is where we want to get to, and it's like bang, bang, bang. We need to get this stuff done, but at the end of the day, we're still human.
That's,
You
yeah.
know,
I was listening to something similar, sorry, and they were also saying we've become human doings rather than human beings.
Human beings, correct?
Yeah, we've stopped the being part and we've just become doings, and that's it.
and all the implications that that brings onto our health is like it's crazy, especially as females. It's insane. But I was actually gonna say because you on your LinkedIn have that, like it or not, we are in the people business, and I think it's really important now that Sohan you had that question about like how to be authentic and transparent with people about like the things that you sort of like want to learn from them and stuff like that. I think it's also really important to I think like delivery is key in certain things. And as you were saying, Tishel, if you s- the example that you did was actually spot on. Like if you want a job from, or like if you want someone to help you find a job, you sort of like have to introduce yourself and tell them a story, right? Like why is that I would be able to get a job at like the place that you're working? And I think it's a people business, and the more we think about how we how important like our interactions with others, the easier it is for us to achieve our objectives. Because at the end of the day, is it's all people driven. And I really like what you were saying that yeah, it's like we are more, what is it? We are human. No, we feel, we feel, we feel,
we're, we're, we're feeling
Feeling
machines
beings, I
that think.
think, or something like that.
yes, we're feeling machines, I think.
Feeling
No,
machines, I think.
yeah.
I think to answer your question, Sohan, about how do you keep the conversations authentic, it's actually just seeking to understand. This is another really really lovely quote that that's etched in my mind right now. It's like seek to understand before being understood. Like, seek to understand where people are actually coming from. Seek to understand their point of view. Seek to understand, like, continually deepen the conversation by asking more questions and staying in the curiosity sort of space. Because the thing is, you don't really know what people are going to be able to do for you. And it's okay, because the thing is, the more you understand about other people, they probably be able to connect the dots better than you can.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that a common thing that I can hear, or like something that is jumping to my attention when I hear your story, and even when we caught up, was the mindset that you seem to have and that you have always had seems to be a growth mindset. And I feel like not many people follow sort of like their dreams or their passions because they are scared, or there's sort of like a difference in the way they approach life. So, um, what do you think? Like, how do you think mindset impacts on the success? The success, because I know it looks different for everyone, but the success of an individual.
Mm. I think mindset is everything. It's literally everything. I don't care what people sort of say about mechanics and processes and intelligence. It's mindset. I was reading, listening to a book right now by Adam Grant, and it's called Think Again. What if?
I
Have
really
you heard
like
of that book before?
Yes, I like it. It's really
I
good.
absolutely love this book, and he talks about having intelligence, humility, and many of us that study and feel like we're so well educated because we've done our degrees and our master's degrees and doing PhDs and like we know the answer. But in actual fact, when you actually look at successful people around the world, it's not really a measure of their intelligence, it's the measure of them being able to unlearn, to be able to rethink. And many of us are not able to actually do that because we actually have so much ego, because we think we already know. And when you look at kids, and the reason why kids seem so happy from such a young age is because they are so curious, they question everything. And if someone says to them, do this, but why do I have to do that? But why? But why? But why? Because they're constantly asking the questions. But then us as human beings, as we get a little bit older, we just accept things to be, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And then our ability to unlearn and relearn becomes even harder and harder as we actually mature and get older.
Yeah. So, like for example, as a mother, how do you sort of like um cultivate this way of thinking, or help your children cultivate this way of thinking? Because um I guess it would be a good way of like advising other people in our podcast, in our audience, but also as a mother, how do you do it?
It's really really tough. I honestly is. I'm not going to say that I've cracked the code. Parenting is so challenging. As far every time I feel like I've got it, then I get thrown another curveball. But I feel what's been really helpful to date, and I'm sorry to be quoting so many different books right now, but Brene Brown's Dare to Lead has it's been such a powerful book around vulnerability. And sometimes I feel like we have the need to feel like we're coming across perfect in all areas, right? Perfect mom, the perfect person, career woman, the perfect daughter, the perfect wife, the perfect sister, the perfect everything, right? In all areas. And there is no such thing as perfect. I think what's been really helpful in my conversations with my girls is really the vulnerability aspect, to actually say to them that I have these dreams and goals and this is kind of what I want to do, but it didn't work out. Like this is the plan that I had and it didn't work. I wanted this to happen, but it didn't work. Like things took a bit longer. This happened, that happened, didn't happen. And it's really interesting when I have these conversations with my kids now. My kids say, but it's okay, mama. Just get up and just do it again. Just do it again. Right. And I think as parents, our role isn't to actually, you know, like pave the pathway for our kids. I think our role as parents is to actually help them think, because that's what's missing. I think, in the schooling system, everywhere you go, people just trying to create ready-made instant results in all areas, right? But then the ability to think is probably what's the hardest. And again, I'm not saying that I'm still a work in progress in this area, but I feel like that's been really helpful. Like with the kids, like we do a lot of things together. We do our dream boards every year, every start of the year. The kids, everyone's got their own vision board. We stick pictures on all of them, and talk about what we're wanting this year to actually bring, and then the whole idea of that is to dream, is to actually show what is possible. And I'm not talking about material aspects. It's about experiences and other things as well.
Mm. Wow. Do you think you had the opportunity to have these vulnerable conversations with your parents, or is that something that you learn now that you're a mother and that you have been exposed to all of these circumstances?
Yeah, no, 100%. It wasn't definitely in my household. I think in my household, everyone tried to put a very brave front of how they were tackling challenges, and they want to keep everything away from the kids so that they are unaware of what's actually going on. And we, as kids, would actually make up stories about what was actually happening. Um, but we try not to do that with the kids because anyway, they're highly intelligent. Like children these days, man, they can work stuff out anyway. I think might as well sort of be honest with them. But I think there's a really cool story that and I think the other aspect with children, because because one of the other challenges is actually, and one of the fears that I also have is not being the primary influencer in their life. You look around you now with social media and access to the internet. The kids these days, from the age of as soon as they get their iPads in their hands, we're no longer primary influences. Back in the day, you watch TV, your parents would turn off the TV. There is no other influence coming through because your parents kind of controlled it. But today, you only have to sort of take a trip down to the restaurants or shopping centers and see how many parents have actually got kids sort of glued to devices as they're doing stuff because that's the babysitter, right? And we live in a very fast-paced sort of world that parents actually need something because they need to get on with their life and do stuff. And but the challenge with that is that the kids are getting so much of influence from outside. Um, just before coming into this call today, my daughter was singing a song and she said, "Don't be a gold digger, don't be a gold digger." And I was like, "Zara, do you know what that even means?" And she says, "Yeah, like someone who just wants to take somebody else's money." She's 9, right? And I was like, "Okay, what does that even mean? Like, what are you saying?" Because oh, there's this guy, this guy, this girl's a gold digger because she was actually cheating on the other guy, so she could get the other guy's money. And I'm like going, "What are you listening to? What are you watching?" Right? Because she's obviously getting terminology that we're not using at home. But this is just one small example, right? Because there is no filter in the world out there. There is no filter. They have access to so much and their brain cannot process the information. So I guess one of the biggest fear right now is not being the primary influencer in our kids' lives. So storytelling is really, really important. As opposed, kids don't want to be told what to do anymore. Like they just don't. And if I was to ask you that when you were growing up and your parents said, don't do something, what would you do?
I would do it
Would not
anyway.
work.
Do it anyway.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
was so rebellious.
Oh my. This will touch on obviously for the future generation that is being glued to the iPads, but even it affects our current generation, like mine and Lauda's as well. Um, we are living more and more in an age that is like more disconnected, just purely because of these devices that we now have, which should be a tool to be more connected, but unfortunately like they can be quite the opposite. How do you advise people to actually go out and build connections?
I don't actually know how to do that apart from trying to be the role model. It's just, I mean, we have that same situation with my kids, right? Like when my kids want to connect with their friend, I said, call them. Because no, I'll just send them a text. I'm like, no, but just call them. Like, wouldn't you have a chat with someone? She goes, no, but I'm texting them. And it was really interesting. So my older daughter is in high school. She's in year 7, and we talked about one of the biggest challenges that kids have as they go into high school is building friends. Starting a friendship network. And I said, so how do you propose doing that? He goes, oh, we're just connected. We're all just use Snapchat. I'm like, okay, that's fine that you're sending messages to someone. How is this building a relationship? We are building a relationship. So in her mind, she thinks by just living in the social media sort of world and everyone's just connected through their devices, they're building a relationship. Um, you probably would have heard of stories and how people sort of break up with their partners using text messages. people who actually want to get a divorce and they send me, like, it's real. Like, these stories are real out there. So, when you talk about human connection, you would think like it's the most natural thing to do, but yet it's the most unnatural thing to do in the world that we're living in today. So AI is going to take over. Like, you talk about ChatGPT and simplified AI and all the different apps that can do so many different things for you. But the one thing they're not able to do for us is connect. And that has become one of the most important skills. We talked about human skills. Like, one of the most important things is the human skills is what we need to actually be learning, embracing, cultivating within our work environment as well as home.
Absolutely, but Tisha, I think you are great at doing that, by the way. Just because I feel like when you were talking about your daughter's example about Snapchat and like being in social media, I feel like even from a networking perspective, like LinkedIn has given us that tool of connecting with people. But when you were sharing how, like at the start of the conversation that we had, and probably it wasn't recording, I don't remember, but you were like, yeah, I have like, I don't know, 1,000 connections on LinkedIn, but do I really get to talk to them? No, they're probably there, just like in my interacting with my posts, liking my stuff. But it's really small, the percentage of people that actually want to connect in real life and that are interested in knowing what you do or in learning through you about themselves or about life. And I think you're really good at it. I give you some more credit.
No, thank you, Laura. I think I was just gonna no, I was just gonna say I think it's actually come with age. Is I think when I was younger, it almost feels like you're invisible. You can do everything on your own. You don't need help from anyone. You can figure everything out on your own. And then I think with time, kind of worked out like human beings are the most important resource in the world. People are the most important resource in the world. But the thing is, why go alone? Why do stuff on your own when you can actually collaborate with other people and kind of lessen the load and kind of do it together? So I think, and obviously it was a long pathway of actually learning and unlearning again to do those things, because sometimes things don't go as planned and relationships get broken, trust gets betrayed, and all of those things. And sometimes you need to learn how to trust again. So there was a whole lot of learning, but I think when I kind of did full circle, I just went, I still love people. I think there's so much to actually learn from other people. And there's so much we can do as a collective that kind of made me just go, let's just connect with people. Don't underestimate the power of a conversation and where that can lead, and just kind of see where it goes.
mm, oh, that's it. You still have hope, and it's beautiful. Yeah, it's true because we. It's good though. I love that.
It's hard
What were you gonna
maintaining
say?
that hope,
Sometimes that you
honestly, because
think that.
like you said, when trust is broken and stuff, to re-come back to that and be able to still instill that is not naive, but there's an element of brushing it off that I don't think not everyone is capable of.
But it's funny. It's funny you say that. In the few different
Yeah.
business ventures that I actually did, I did a whole lot of different things. We bought property in the U.S. And it was during the subprime sort of crisis. And there were people that we built a really strong relationship with. They stayed at their home in Vegas. He proposed to his wife. Like, we were part of like some really big events in this couple's life. And overnight, all the money that we actually put into these properties were gone. These people disappeared from the face of the earth, and I couldn't find them anymore. Um, and so we had a few sort of issues with people that we built really strong relationships with, and then overnight, like, there wasn't a relationship anymore. And I remember my mom sort of saying to me, she goes, Tisha, you're not cut out for business. You don't have a crooked bone in your body. Like, in order for you to be in business, you need to be cunning and sly. And I went, okay, really? She goes, yes, don't trust anyone. The world is really a bad place. Don't trust anyone. Just do stuff on your own. And I went a period of time thinking that way. And I just went, I don't need anybody. I can do this on my own. Like, the world's such a bad place. But it came back to what my values were. And part of my value is connecting with people, building relationships with people, being honest, having integrity is part of my value system. And I think I could only do what she was saying to me again to keep me safe for a period of time. And then I realized that I wasn't actually like living life the way I want to live. And I was like, you know what, mom? If the whole world that I actually connected with and they all cheated me, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, I know I still did the right thing. Like I wouldn't be
Mm.
able to live if I was constantly in fear of what other people are going to be doing. Like I still needed to be able to live. But today, I'm just so glad to prove my mom wrong that you can be in business, you can be successful, and you don't need to be cunning and sly. And there are amazing, trustworthy people out there that you can build relationships with.
Yeah. Mm. Absolutely. The resilience that it takes to get there, though. I would say you genuinely have gone through a lot of stuff.
Mhm. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to collect all these stories to write a book.
Please do.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially what you wanted to be able to tell all these different stories to your kids. You know, you're literally by being involved in all this, that's how you come up with these stories.
I think we might need like a second episode on you, Jenny, because it's so amazing. Like genuinely, it's really inspiring for people because the ability that you have to pivot, it's incredible. Because I think like we all go through hard things. Any human being goes through challenges, but there's certain things that you have faced, like for example, as you were describing before, the ability to sort of like trust people again. And I know it must have been like a process to get there, but look at where you are now. Like you, amazing. And now you, something that it amazes me because you have this like non-for-profit organization that is about leadership and all of these things. Like you still think to pay back, which is something that not many people do because again, like they go into this like mindset of like no, like you can't trust anyone or like nah, like I'm doing like I'm being selfish and it's for my own benefit. But no, you still want to share the knowledge and you still know that the communal impact, like you still think about people and it's like it's amazing.
Mm. But Laura, I don't think it makes me any special. I think the inspiration is really my kids. It's just to show them that it is possible. The kids they don't hear what you say, but they see what you do. So the number of times I've had conversations with my daughters, and they say, "Mama, do you really have like three jobs?" And Zara, my little one, when she writes stories about write stories at school about your mom or your dad and stuff like that, makes me laugh when I look at half the things that she's written. Um, and it's just to prove to her that it is possible. Like you can be a career professional, you can run businesses, you can run not for profits, you can be a mom, you can do all these different things. Like who said that you can't? Who said you shouldn't? Like who set the rules in all of these, right? Like I think the only limit is the limit that actually lives in our heads.
So if you were going to advise someone that was sort of like asking you all these questions, like how do you have three jobs, how if you were going to tell your daughter the answer, like what would you tell them? How do you do this, supermom?
No, it's not super well. It's just having a really big dream. The one thing that I keep coming back to time and time again, even with my kids, it's like do not let anyone steal your dreams. When you're young, you actually have all these dreams about all the things that you want to do. You move countries, you start jobs, you could do all these things, and then life happens, right? And then what happens is then your dreams from this big starts to shrink and get smaller and smaller and smaller because you just think, you know what? There's no choice. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Just accept it. Accept it. And your dreams become so small. And then what happens then is you start playing small. Like what happened? Like you've shortchanged yourself, right? And you've let the whole world, you've proved the world right because you've compromised on your dreams. And I'll just keep going. Like, who knows? I think the dreams keep changing as well. Like every time I think we get to a point, you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Can we just stretch it by another 20%? See how we go. Like we keep stretching. Because that's what life is about. It's in my humble opinion, but accurate opinion. It's all about stretching and actually having a really having clarity of what your dreams are. And just don't compromise and just don't stop. Just keep going.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I like that analogy of don't play small. You led you made the world right. Sorry, I
I think that's a great
mm,
parting message for the audience, to be honest.
yeah, absolutely.
Don't shrink your dreams. In the last part of the segment, I guess, or interview or conversation that we do, we usually just try to keep it a bit short and fast questions. So they might be odd, sorry, but definitely like the quicker you can answer, the better. It's just like a little fun thing that we do because like we obviously talk about your journey a little bit, but this is just a fun way to end. So the first thing that we want to ask you is,
It's funny that you mentioned this when we were like talking. But is heartbreak an important life lesson? What do you think?
Oh, don't get me started. Didn't
Please,
actually share with
please,
you.
start.
I, 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 I actually have a Bollywood love story. I've got married to my husband, who wasn't someone that was accepted by my parents, and I was meant to actually marry someone else, but I stuck through, and I was very, very resilient. He might have a slightly different version to the story, but I had lots of heartbreaks, and it went through over a very long period of time. Like, I know Rav since I was 18, and we didn't get married till I was 27. So it was 9 years of fighting, if you like, or proving to families that we were actually meant to be together. And we were worlds apart. Like, literally, we lived in different countries. We were forced not to communicate. I was meant, like I said, was meant to marry someone else. Yeah, and it happened. So I do believe in true love. This is sounding a bit like a fairy tale right now, but I think heartbreaks are important because I think it only builds you.
yeah, I think it gives you like a resilience and I don't know, builds character.
Definitely. It allows you to know yourself a little bit more better too. Oh,
Yeah, honestly. But I love that it worked out in the
yeah.
end for you. That's so cute.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, next question. If you could pick to be one person for the day, who would it be?
Me.
Ooh. I like that.
that's awesome. That's an awesome answer. And I guess this one is a little bit deeper and um, going back to those heavy questions, I guess. What are the big lessons you have been learning recently?
Your network is your net worth. The people that you associate with will result in the results that you're actually after in your life. I am very, very careful with who influences me. So yeah, I think meant having a mentor is non-negotiable for me, and I'm very, very grateful that I do have one, because I believe that if you do not have a mentor, society will mentor you.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. It's only honestly been a pleasure to have you and to have a little bit of your insights in our podcast. I look forward to having you again and keep discussing more about our journey in this industry and the other industries that we are part of.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, Sohan, for having me.
Good, our pleasure.
It's been fantastic. Thank you.